Greetings and bienvenue, everyone. I am your esteemed host, Wolfus64. Welcome to my channel where I do my best to inspire new players to enjoy Elden Ring as much as I do. If that appeals to you, or you just want to hear me rant more about how annoying the game can be at times, please smash that motherfucking like button and subscribe for more Elden Ring content. With all of that out of the way, let's get into the video. So, once again, in another video about Elden Ring's fucking imbalance for their weapons and stuff, I am coming to you guys with the Reduvia dagger as, like, I guess an exhibit C of Elden Ring's mismanagement in of balancing. So, without further ado, the Reduvia dagger starts off it only needs you to have 5 strength, 13 dexterity, and 13 arcane, which is pretty much the like already maximum stat requirements that the bandit class starts off with in the beginning of the Elden Ring game. It is a reward for killing Nereus, the Bloody Finger Invader, in front of Murkwater Cave. And as a somber smithing weapon, it can be upgraded to plus 10 because it is a unique weapon and it has a unique variant of the Ash of War that it has, or that there is. As a somber weapon, it maintains an EDD scaling until you reach plus 2, where it will become an EDC. To break those down, the EDD is an E in strength, a D in dexterity, and a D in arcane scaling. And then so on, it turns into an EDC at plus 2. It then changes to an ECC at plus 7 only. But as you can certainly see from the footage, once I get to the plus 5 variant, that kind of doesn't entirely mean too much. Plus, going up to plus 5 for a level 60 invasion, I always like benchmark the level 30 to level 60 area for invasions, because that's where I primarily like to do my invasions, if you couldn't tell from any of my previous videos. But yeah, so at level 60, I have had friends tell me that a good weapon level for unique and non-unique weapons, aka the somber smithing weapons, and then the regular smithing stone weapons, the sombers should be plus 5, whereas the regular smithing stone weapons should be at plus 12. That is a good number for a level 60 build, so at plus 5, as we'll see here later on in the video, is very dangerous and devastating. And it only goes up from here. And so to continue on, lastly, it becomes an ECB scaling format from plus 8 to plus 10. Now, that might not sound like a lot to the average person watching this video, so I'll break it down for you beginners. The scale, as I've mentioned before in previous videos, the scaling in Elden Ring is loosely based off of the grading system in Japanese schools, with S scaling being the strongest, or like the highest grade you can get, and so it would be the best weapons, or the best weapon scaling you can get in the game. Then there's A, B, C, D, and then finally E being the last and the worst. So B is the third highest scaling level you could get up to before you get into A and S. But yeah, for a dagger to have a B scaling stat, or any stat that scales with a B, is very, very terrifying to conceptualize. Yeah. So, the oppression I will be happily describing to further belabor my point is that the unique skill of the dagger, aptly named the Reduvia Bloodblade, it can, firstly, whenever you press the weapon art button, you will flip the dagger over and then proceed to slash across the player's torso, releasing a blood arc, as you saw me do right quick. And that can be spammed repeatedly for about 6-ish FP, and those blood arcs fly about roughly 15-ish feet in front of the player at a height like about 3 to 4 feet off the ground, I would say, if you're like aiming straight forward. If you're aiming at some larger targets like Margit here, where they're quite taller than the player is, you'll be aiming like 6 or 7 or up to, like, I want to say 15 feet in the air is how high they'll fling. But yeah, this skill can be repeatedly used once again for 6 FP per use. That's pretty much nothing in this game. But the odd thing is that the Ash of War variant of this that you can put on pretty much any other standard weapon chunks away at your HP as well as your FP, whereas the Reduvia Bloodblade variant of it on the unique weapon, the Reduvia Dagger, as I'm obviously talking about, has it has like no drawback whatsoever to it at all. It's just so it's a very desirable dagger is what I'm trying to get at here. It's very desirable for very early on blood loss builds. It builds up a lot of bleed, or it builds up the hemorrhaging status bar fairly quickly, or the bleed bar, or whatever you want to call it. It does it fairly quickly and fairly, often, because you can just swing it quickly because it's a dagger. They come out very fast. Even the weapon art is very fast. And as of 1.07, using the skill close enough to hit your target with the weapon as well also does additional damage, and the skill got a damage buff. Those were the two changes in 1.07. The skill itself cannot be parried by normal parries. You need the carry and retaliation for it. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. The overall damage of the skill can also be increased with the weapon's upgrade level, as well as your arcane stat and dexterity stat to a lesser degree, thusly giving it 3 entire avenues to increase the overall damage of the, once again, highly spammable fucking unique skill. And you see, that's my underlying issue with Elden Ring's balancing, or quote-unquote balancing, I guess I should say, is that there's not a lot of drawbacks to shit like this, especially with like the Moon Veil and hell, even the Dark Moonblade doesn't have any drawbacks other than a rather lengthy quest to get to it, and that's not terrible. Moon Veil is locked behind a rather difficult boss fight for most new players, but again, you could just have and the same could be said for the Reduvia Dagger. You just need to kill that one invader, but you can only get it once per playthrough, so you would have to cycle through the game all over again in its entirety to get another one. Or you could just have a friend drop it for you, drop 2 of them for you, because it's not that difficult. You don't need ridiculous stats to use these daggers. I have the bare minimum of stats, as you saw at the beginning of the video, for use of this dagger. I have not increased anything. I only increased the dagger's upgrade level from I have the base variant all the way up to +10 variant, and some additional items to help boost all the damage that you could ever possibly do to this weapon that you saw earlier on in the intro part of the video, and we'll see at the end for the outro of the video. So here on the plus 6 or 7 variant of it, we're gonna start getting into the very dangerous but tasty power of the weapon here. So once again, excuse me, I'm a little stuffy today. I feel like, I don't know, because I'm just trying to think of like how to make not make it worse for the player to use, but just it has to have something to make it more, or I guess less, you know, I don't know. I'm fumbling over my words here. I'm sorry. I don't have any other notes written down other than what I have on my note card. I don't know if drawbacks is the right word for it, but these weapons are very attractive to use, especially earlier on in builds like this. I would honestly like, I guess, to see scaling changes, as I mentioned before in the Moon Project video. Because a B scaling, even if it's on a dagger, a B scaling for arcane, it's very devastating, especially given that bleed status buildup can be done very, very quickly with the weapon and the Ash of War simultaneously. Like, as you've seen, I can just R1 mark it in perpetuity for quite a while, and then throw in some Bloodblade slashes to boost it even more. And within, usually, hell, even when you first get the dagger, usually on regular enemies, not boss enemies like Margit here, usually you can get the blood proc to, or the hemorrhaging to proc on regular enemies in 2 or 3 hits, depending on how bulky they are. Even when they're shielded, they can get procced fairly quickly. So it's just, I guess if that was the point, then they should not only lower the scaling to like a C tier, maybe make it an ECC all the way to plus 10, or maybe keep it an EDC until plus 9, and then make it a plus, like the ECB for the plus 10 variant. I don't know. Once again, I'm just trying to think of how to like curtail the problem I'm trying to address here with the scaling issues and so on. Yeah, the hemorrhaging buildup needs to be toned way the fuck down, especially on a number of other weapons. Sure, the weapon says it does 55 bleed buildup when you first get it. I don't think that changes when I beef up my stats. I'll have to go through it again and see what go through the video again and see what it says, because I'll have 99 arcane by the end of this video, and so it'll be like maximum bleed buildup. And I know that the arcane stat doesn't make the bleed buildup hit harder. It just makes it faster to build up, and then it does the 10% of somebody's total HP and all that jazz. I think it's 10%. Don't quote me on that one. I'm not entirely sure about it, but yeah, it just needs to be toned down. If it's the 55, like I think it is, then From Software just needs to tone down the B scaling after at plus 8 and then through to 10. But saying that, even thinking about it, the ECC at plus 7 only is quite dangerous. Even the EDC is pretty gnarly, but that's just, I don't know, it's a very weird and fine line to do something. I know I'm kind of putting my foot in my mouth when I say stuff like that, because it's very hard to think of something to do, but From Software has had, what, 2.5-ish years to think about a solution for this kind of problem, and they just have not done anything. And it's not to say that they don't know how to do anything about it, it's just that they haven't gotten to do anything about it, is my issue, I suppose. And that could be said. The same could be said for the the Moon Project video, the Moon Veil, and the Dark Moon Greatsword. All of those could I they could have better. They could have worse scaling to make the weapon, I suppose, for lack of a better term, less desirable for uh, uh, lower tier fighting builds like myself. Like, I know you can do so much in the game to, beef up all your damage, but it should never be this readily available. And I know that was the point of making an open world like this, to make things kind of harder to get to. But given that there's mods now where everybody can just get everything, it makes the problem that much more prolific. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents into the ring on this kind of an issue. Again, I'm bringing it up for the Reduvia. I don't know if I'll bring it up for anything else, but yeah, that should be it. Do let me know in the comments if you guys want to see more content like this. I'm always itching for more videos like this. I think they're fun to make, and I do enjoy making them as much as humanly possible, even if they did take me quite a bit. I try to do as much cursory research as I can before I make a video like this, because I want to be as accurate as humanly possible and try to help players understand why this would be an issue. Because again, at level 60 or at level 30, I'm getting almost 2 shot by one Reduvia dagger. So that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.